What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with Tesla stock and President Trump as we have some new tariff updates that just came out. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed at 25 in total. And deposit $5,000, you're guaranteed 60 free stocks. The offer ends on June 3rd in just about 10 days from now. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So I just want to note that I'm recording this video on Friday night. So in case there's like more updates that come out involving the tariffs on Saturday, I might not get everything in the video, but it's okay, guys. I do still have lots of updates that are very important that will still affect us. As far as Tesla's going, as you could tell, we're respecting a very, very nice flag right here. So this still has a lot of potential to break out as we get into the June period. But for now, all this uncertainty about the tariffs could still cause some volatility, even some downside for the markets in Tesla before we get a very nice bullish move in the month of June. Tesla is green historically 80% of the time in June. It's a very, very strong month, and there is potential for a much larger bounce once we get this dip. There might be some more volatility and some downside coming for the time being, but this could be setting us up for something very big. So, with all this tariff talk from President Trump, I just want to remind you all that on Sunday, we have Jerome Powell giving a speech, okay? And whatever he says could cause some volatility in the markets because you have to remember that we don't really know a whole lot about what's going to happen with Trump's tariffs. We don't know what's going to happen once we get the 90-day expiration on the pause. We don't know what's going to happen involving a lot of other changes. If President Trump is going to be assigning more countries more tariffs, what's going to happen? There's a lot of uncertainty, and this might cause Jerome Powell to be very ambiguous all over again. He might not give us the information we want. He might not signal a cut or anything. He might just go in circles as he typically does, and the market may not like that. So I just want to give you guys a warning. On top of this, we do have Nvda announcing earnings on Wednesday, which could affect Tesla. So keep that in mind as well. So let's talk about President Trump. I want to give you guys some updates on what he's been saying. Then I'll talk about the charts before I conclude the video. So as you know, he's been threatening higher tariffs in the European Union. He basically said that the European Union was formed for the purpose of taking advantage of the USA. And I have more details about this. I'll talk about those in just a couple of minutes. I just want to go over this real quick again. He mentioned that they have very powerful trade barriers, lots of corporate penalties. And he said that what they're doing is unfair and they have unjustified lawsuits against American companies. He mentioned the trade deficit is worth more than $250 million a year. I think he meant to say $250 billion. That's actually closer to what it's actually looking like. And then he's recommending a 50% tariff on the European Union starting on June 1st. That is some big news so far. He also has threatened Apple and Samsung. I will talk about his Samsung quotes in just a couple of minutes. He said that we're looking at a 25% tariff on Apple if they don't produce things in the USA. He wants them to make things in the USA. He also criticized Tim Cook in a lot of different ways. Then he talked about the UK and how he wants to see them drill more in the North Sea as they're continuing to bring energy costs down. So, big news so far. What's happening with all of these tariffs? So, a couple of weeks ago, not a couple of weeks ago, I think like last week, President Trump said that he wants to give lots of countries unilateral tariff rates if they don't sign good deals. And he said he's going to do it over the next 2 to 3 weeks. He said that last week. So I would say like next week and beyond is what he's been referring to. So far, he kept his word. We didn't get a deal with the EU. He wasn't happy with the way they were negotiating. So he is now assigning them a 50% tariff, at least as of right now. Now, this could be a tactic simultaneously to incentivize the EU to start doing what he wants them to do, right? He threatens these high tariffs, he gets the countries to capitulate, and that's going to cause them to maybe form a better deal, right? That's his tactic, at least so far. So, what else did President Trump say? We have more announcements. President Trump said he's going to be making a big announcement involving nuclear energy. Then he went on about how he's talking about big plants coming to the USA. Then he said that he's going to be taking questions about tariffs soon. He said that the talks with the EU are moving too slow and the EU is not nice to the US. We can't sell our American cars in the EU. We're not looking for a deal with the EU. Then he said that on June 1st, we're looking for a 50% tariff on the EU. So that's what he's been saying so far. He's threatening the European Union. Then he talked about how the first thing is that he could talk about how there's delay to EU tariffs if they start moving to the US. Then he said that there are numerous other deals that are ready to be signed, but he wants to see them the American manufacturers build more plants in the US. He also talked about the tariffs on Apple and Samsung. He said that he wants to include Samsung as well. And by the end of June, he wants to impose 25% tariffs on Apple and Samsung. He said that it's going to be more, it will be Samsung too and other companies, and also those who make their companies sell them in America but produce them elsewhere. He said that he wants Apple and Samsung to build their plants in the USA. And if they do that, there's going to be no tariffs for them. So that's what President Trump said. He said that if you sell in the USA, it needs to be built in the USA. Then there's going to be no tariffs. So build in the USA. Then he said that Tim Cook is looking for India. There will always be tariffs that way. It doesn't make sense. It'll be more. It'll be on Samsung too. And it does not make sense to build in India. He wants them to build in the USA. He wants them to start producing more and bring more jobs over here. He warned 25% tariffs on Samsung if products are not made in the US. And he said some products in the US need to be built here. Otherwise, it's better off. Then he said that he's not looking for a deal with the EU. He wants them to move their companies' plants to the USA, build in America. He criticized the lawsuits against US companies. He's criticizing the EU laws, and he's saying that he's not happy with the way in which they're doing business. So that's what President Trump said about the European Union. And then he repeated the same thing about Apple and Samsung. If they build in the USA, there's going to be no tariffs. And then he said that there's going to be a deal with Iran coming, a very, very big deal. He does not want the consumer to pay the tariffs. He wants the tariffs to help. He said the tariffs are helping. They're not going to hurt us. They're going to be very, very helpful. Then he said that he wants to see the European countries move their plans to the USA. He repeated that over and over again. He mentioned there's going to be a big deal between US Steel and Japan. We're talking about Nippon Steel also producing with America. We're talking about a $14 billion partnership, and President Trump is saying it's going to add 70,000 jobs to the US. So that is one good piece of news, the big deal between the US and Japan's steel manufacturing. But besides that, is that enough to get us to balance? I'm not too sure because there's a lot of uncertainty about all of these tariffs. So the problem is that we want to see Tesla break 350 to remain bullish. We got a rejection of 350, rejection of 245. And if we push here, we could reject again and see some consolidation like this for some time. But then once we get to June, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see a breakout from this flag. That's a very, very bullish setup on Tesla so far. So look at this as a blessing in disguise, a very good buying opportunity. Like I said before, this looks like a giant inverse head and shoulders on Tesla. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, this is like a left shoulder, a head, and then a right shoulder. We could be dipping a bit lower before it starts to see a big rebound because of the robotaxi launch. Elon Musk is saying it's going to be coming at the end of June or by the end of June. That's big news. The launch of the robotaxi in Austin, Texas. And then we also have a nice looking cup and handle forming on the weekly, which is still bullish. So Tesla is very bullish. Short term, could we dip more? Yes, I would like to see us dip. If we come down to fill this gap all the way down to 300, it's a big blessing. I don't know if it's going to dip that low. I could see 325, but all the way down to 300 to fill the gap. Maybe we're going to be looking for a massive bounce either way between 320 and 300. And we're going to be looking for a big push towards closer to 400, in my opinion, as we get to the end of June. So very, very bullish setup on Tesla, even if we do come down a little bit. SPY is bullish. The weekly is kind of weaker, so it does suggest we could be coming a little bit lower. We have a gap to fill at 566. We're going to be watching 578. If it doesn't hold, we're looking for 575 and 566. Then we could be looking for a big bounce once we hit that if we do see buyers defend. But we have to hold the 560s. So in case we come lower, we'll be looking for a big buying opportunity for a big bounce. We could be looking for a move like this where we kind of dip like this and eventually start to break out as the weeks progress and as we get closer to June. That could be coming if we end up holding 560. And for Tesla, we have a very similar setup, by the way. Whether we do dip towards 320 or so, we could be looking for a big breakout for the 400s all the way up towards these highs for the next couple of months. For the QQQ, we're looking very weak on the weekly. We're going to see if we can hold 500. If not, we're looking for this gap fill towards the 490s. 500 to 490 might be a good buy zone before this thing starts to rally even higher for the much higher 500s. There is still a lot of upside potential on this chart. For ES, same setup. We're kind of weak right now. We could be dipping towards 5,700, if not below. And then we'll see if we get a big breakout as time goes on, forming a nice cup and handle. There's still potential on ES if we hold support. Even on NQ, looking at the weekly time frame, could retest these EMAs around 20,200. If we lose 20,800 for confirmation, we have a gap to fill. And then once we hold 20,000, we're looking for a big rebound. And we could be looking for a big rally back up towards the highs all over again for the next couple of months. So we're still bullish overall, even if we get a small pullback move. Even on Nvidia, we have a nice looking flag over here on the 4 hour time frame. As we have earnings coming out, we'll see if we kind of consolidate for some time before we see some kind of breakouts. Maybe as we get closer to June, there is still a risk of us retesting like 325 or below and kind of dipping a little bit lower before we get some kind of breakout of this. So it's still bullish in terms of the setup, but we'll see what happens with the earnings. So we just have to wait and see for confirmation. So Apple is a very, very good buy. It's dumped quite a bit. There's a very, very good buying opportunity around 190. Could we dip more? Yes, I could see us dipping to like 185 to 190, but then I'll be looking for a good opportunity. We're down pretty big from the highs, so this is a good opportunity on Apple, guys. I do see this as a good buy. Double top leg structure, more downside for 190 is possible, but buying shares slowly, dollar cost averaging, getting ready for a big move is looking pretty good. So with that being said, guys, I thank you all so much for listening. Please enjoy the rest of your guys' day and weekends. I want to make this video very short. I appreciate you guys so much for watching these videos, and just know that with Tesla, I see a very, very big opportunity. I'm very happy that we're getting good prices, and I'm very excited for the big run that's coming in June, most likely. So I'm very bullish for the month of June. For the short term, I'm still quite bearish as we're making lower highs. We could be dipping more on Tesla for the shorter term, next week or so. But later on, once we get to June, there is still so much upside potential. Okay. Thank you for listening. I'll talk more about more updates later on. Hopefully, I have time to post a video tomorrow. I hope I can do that. We'll see if I get time. If not, guys, I will for sure see you guys by Monday. So enjoy the Memorial Day holiday. Enjoy the 3-day weekend. And I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you for listening and peace out.